Welcome back to Houston Live. Today marks the 125th anniversary of the deadliest natural disaster in U.S. history, the Great Galveston Hurricane of 1900.
And to honor this chapter of Texas history, two authors have written powerful novels set during the storm. Paul Remmers, author of Island Intern, and Greg Funderburk, author of The Morning Wave, are joining us now with more on how this storm really resonates even 125 years later. And gentlemen, what I think is interesting, you two didn't know each other until very recently. What has the response been? Because it seems like for native Houstonians like yourself or Paul, native Galvestonians, is that the correct term, Galvestonians?
Yes. Yeah.
This really resonates because we're all touched by this storm in some way. What have people said about what you wrote?
They've appreciated the history of Galveston. The people in Galveston are very aware of the storm and have always been aware of it and the events, survivors. They've known descendants of survivors. So it resonates a lot with this city. It always has. It's part of the Rosenberg Library archives that many people enjoy looking through. And so it's very, very important to the city.
Yeah, and writing a book, it's no simple task. So congratulations to both of you. Greg, this is a book that was published in 2020. It is your first novel. You are a lawyer. You are obviously a writer, a pastoral care minister. How has that affected the way you wrote this book, The Morning Wave?
I think that in the arc of the book really does move toward hope. And I think that really was important to me to have a story that kind of did carry that arc because of one's faith and because of that. There's always grief in our life. There's trauma. There's tribulation. There's storms in our life. But hopefully, we overcome that and find hope on the other side. And so I think that was a big part of it. The other part I think is just how you help people that are going through grief by listening to them and listening to their stories and things of that sort. So I think that's really important too, that comes through in the book.
Yeah. Paul, you're a first-time author.
Yes.
You spent your career as a physician.
Yes.
And I understand your wife really was the one behind the scenes being your cheerleader and saying, hey, publish this book. This was important to her that you published. She's behind the cameras right now. But this was also really an important thing that you thought about doing for a while.
Right. In the year 2000, the 100-year anniversary of the storm, there was a lot of information in the news, and we all read about it and saw photos, and it sort of reignited a lot of the history we knew. So I started the book and got a third of the way through it, but just got so busy with work, I put it on the shelf. And so after Hurricane Harvey in 2017, my wife found the old floppy disk, and from there we resurrected it, and she said, finish the book, and so I did. Took a little while, but we did, yeah.
Well, I'm glad she made you finish the book.
Yeah, me too.
Greg, when you are going to write about something that is such historical impact and significance, where do you start? Who did you interview? How did your research go?
Yeah, I think this story's always been kind of pinging around in my consciousness, like a lot of people in Houston and Galveston. And so you're kind of looking for the small, compelling story inside the big, epic story. And interviewed a woman named Linda McDonald, who is was the communications director for the Sisters of Charity for the Incarnate Word, that ran the St. Mary's Orphanage down in Galveston that really the book is about. And she was wonderful, gave me some Houston Post articles from 1937 about these kids that survived, the 3 children that survived the storm there at the St. Mary's Orphanage. Gave me a roster of the kids' names that were at the orphanage at the time, and that really, that really kind of captured my imagination to know the children's names that were there at the orphanage, and a number of other things that really just kind of spurred my imagination to put the story together.
Harrowing stories, and I think the images really kind of tell part of the story, right? We can see the great devastation. Were you prepared when you both published these books, were you prepared for people to come forward and share their family stories with you? Because that's happened quite a bit, hasn't it?
Yes, I've enjoyed that, and there's been several that have recounted what they heard. They were just oral tradition that's been passed down. So yeah, we just keep learning more and more about the storm.
It started a dialogue.
Yeah, it really did. After my book came out, there's a character in my book, really the protagonist, one of the orphans named Will Murney. And about a week after my book came out, my publisher said, "Hey, this fellow's trying to get a hold of you." And I looked at his name, and his name was John Murney. He was the grandson of the orphan that was at the center of my story.
Oh my
He
gosh.
was really, really interesting conversation. Told me all about his granddad and how the rest of his life went. And it really was interesting.
That's got to be so meaningful for you as well. That like your stories are impacting them and their stories are impacting you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I even had a little trepidation when I saw that he was writing me. I was thinking, okay, I guess I stole his granddad's story, but he was as nice as he could be and gave me some real insight about his relative.
I like the way you guys weaved in, some of your personal things. Like you
Yes.
as a doctor, you
Yes.
write the story from the vantage point of an intern.
Right.
Why did you make that choice?
Well, the intern year is the pivotal year for you as a physician. You go through school and then you don't think you know anything. So you have the intern year where you finally feel like you're a doctor when you finish, and then you can go forward at that. But it's a pivotal year where you learn but you make mistakes, and so that it's a sort of a emotional, traumatic year at times. So on top of the storm, on top of that, I thought that would be an interesting story.
Well, Paul Remmers,
Absolutely.
Greg Funderburk, thanks so much for stopping by Houston Life. Thanks for writing these books.
Yeah.
I'm glad you two have become friends. And we do want to let our viewers know that both books are available at Brazos Bookstore, also Galveston Bookshop. We have provided a link on our website, HoustonLife.tv. Look for that scene on Houston Life section. And I know the Galveston and Houston natives will love these books.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.